Good morning. Welcome to our 10:30 Kids Story Time. And this morning I thought I'd talk to you about when we lived out of town. Remember, we left Cumberland, Maryland, and when I was going into the 6th grade, and we lived out there while I was in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We lived on what I would guess I would call a little farmette. And at some point, right after we moved there, someone gave us a little pig. Gave it to my little brother, and he named it Oinky. That's kind of a good, apt pig name, isn't it? Oinky. Because he oinked a lot. And he grew very quickly. He wasn't very big when we got him, but boy, he was big when we got rid of him. And I guess that pig grew to be about a 400-pound hog. He was a tank. And when we first got him, my dad built a kind of a hog pen. He took some metal fence posts, and he got some pallets probably from the Pittsburgh Plate Glass factory where he worked, and he stood those pallets up and then drove those metal fence posts into those pallets and built a kind of a big square pen for that pig. And then somebody gave him a big dog box with just a flat slant roof on the top, and he put that in one of the corners, and we would take the scraps and leftovers and things like that down across the field and down over the hill into the woods where Oinky lived, and that pig got to where when he grew and he got big, he could jump over those pallets and get out of the pen, and that hog would come trotting up, and he'd be in our front yard nosing around, and my mom and dad didn't want him loose like that, and we kids, we thought that was hilarious. We got a pet pig that's walking around out in the yard, and my older sister would go out and find a stick and rub the side of that hog with that stick. And that hog liked that. Must have felt good. He was all muddy, and he had dried dirt and mud on the side of him, and she'd rub that, and the dustwood and dirt would kind of fly off of him, and he'd stand there like, oh yeah, that feels real good. You know how it feels real good if you've got a spot that itches on your back and you can't reach it, and someone comes along and scratches that spot. Well, that's the way that pig acted. And I couldn't tell you how many times that the Pittsburgh Plate Glass factory was the men were getting off work, and as they came down the road there, the traffic was backed up, and the cars were at a standstill waiting to go down to the end of the road there to the stop sign to turn on the major highway. And so the traffic was stopped, and there was this teenage girl out rubbing the side of this big hog with a stick, and the men from the plant would blow the horns, and they were yelling and screaming and laughing, and my sister would get embarrassed and leave the hog and come inside. And what she would try to do, if she could do it before those men saw her scratching the side of this big hog, she would scratch the side of the hog and then move away a little bit, and the hog would come over like, come on, do that again, and she'd scratch his side and then move away, and they would do that all the way across the field and down over the hill until she could get him back into the pen. And what my sister didn't know was that my two younger brothers, I only did this one time with them. My two younger brothers would go down over the hill, and they had discovered that if they ran together and whooped it up and hollered around they ran around the outside of that big pig pen, that pig would get excited and run on the inside the opposite direction. So if they were running this way, he would run the other way, and get going faster and faster and faster, and they would work him up, and he would jump out of the hog pen, all excited. I didn't know a hog could jump like that, and but that's what I heard. That's what I discovered later. But one day, I guess I was probably about 7th grade. I went down there, and I heard them whooping it up and hollering and having a good time. Thought, what are they doing? And I went down over the hill, and I caught them, and it looked fun. I have to admit, it looked fun. And so, I got involved with what they were doing. I was whooping it up and hollering and running around the outside of that pig pen. And while we were running this direction, the pig was running the opposite direction inside. I have told people we probably ran the fat off that. He was a lean, mean hunk of meat. And that particular day, as he ran around, instead of taking one of the turns, he dog box about and come blasting out the back end, blew a hole through the plywood. It was probably about half rotted anyway, and out the back he came, just a snorting and grunting, and as soon as that happened, I jumped out from the outside of the hog pen into the inside, because I thought, well, if the hog's out, I want to be in. And I thought, if the hog runs back in, I'll just jump back out. And I wanted to be wherever he wasn't. But my two younger brothers, they were still in elementary school. I was standing inside the hog pen, and I saw them. They were running up the hill along the path with that hog behind them, snorting and half chasing them. And they kind of went up over the out of the hill, over the hill, out of sight. And I think tree and kind of shinnied up that tree and got out of the way. And that hog was he was snorting. He was crazy that day. He'd had enough of all that. And it was just maybe that day or the next day that my dad hauled that pig off to the butcher shop. It was the end of that hog. Why did I tell you all that? Because there's a verse in the Bible that says, why did I tell you all that? Because there's a Bible verse that says, for a season. The devil knows that if doing the wrong thing wasn't any fun at all, he would have a hard time getting us to do the wrong thing. But the truth is, sometimes doing the wrong thing can be fun. You can get enjoyment. You can have a lot of fun and a lot of laughs sometimes doing wrong things. But if you continue doing wrong things, and so don't be deceived. Don't be fooled by the fun that you think you're having in sin. Because in the end, it's like a snake. It rises up and bites you. Be careful what you do. Be careful what you get involved in. Oh, yeah, we were having fun, but in the end, we lost our pet hog, and the hog lost his life. So we were having a good time, but boy, you can go partying and drinking and carrying on and think it's fun and hilarious to get involved in things, and all of a sudden someone can get hurt. So be careful. Don't fall for the devil's tricks. Have a good day.